Yeah,
Great.
I can hear you.
You're coming through 5 by 5.
There we go.
Well, thank you. What a great movie.
There's lights. I can see.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
that was amazing. I mean, we do a lot of studying on so many parallel, things with the Marxism and Agenda 21 and whatnot, and you make a really clear case for the environmentalists being a big part of that as well. How did you get your start? Where did you decide to make a movie about this?
I grew up in southwestern Montana. I live in south central Montana now, but ever since I was young, I just had a passion for the environment. I grew up in a really pretty place on a cattle ranch, and I was driving tractors since I was 10 years old out in the field, pretty much full time. And I just love the land, and there's a lot of wildlife up in the hills. I just developed a passion for the environment and the subject of stewardship. And over the years out there, I found the family camera, started making movies when I was a kid, and really wanted to get into it. So decided I'd give it a shot. And I'm all self-taught. I was homeschooled all the way, by the way. I don't know if there's any homeschoolers in the audience there.
Oh yeah, we had a Common Core meeting recently, so we're all very wise and aware of that.
Yeah. So, anyways, me and brothers and sisters, sometimes some friends, we would go make these little silly movies. And when I was about 17 or so, I'm like, man, I really want to pursue this filmmaking stuff. And so I bought a nicer camera and a mic, and I actually made a documentary about the introduction of Canadian gray wolves to Yellowstone National Park, because we were surrounded with this issue out there. And so it was kind of my first shot at investigative journalism. And what I found out in that film really blew me away. I mean, one interview led to the next, and I eventually talked to this guy who was a whistleblower on the whole thing. It was just this mess, just wrought with fraud and corruption and all kinds of government and environmental special interests. And this guy was actually ordered by the GAO to audit the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and he found that they stole like $70 million from the sportsmen to reintroduce the wolves. And that's just a small taste of it all. And so that project I released in 2011. That was my first documentary. And then fall of 2012 really is when I wanted to make this next one. I wanted to make a film that addressed environmentalism on a larger scale. And I started doing a lot of writing and a lot of brainstorming while I marketed my first film. And then my fundraising campaign ended that fall. Actually, the idea would have been conceived fall 2011. Fundraising campaign, I raised the money on Kickstarter. Are you all familiar with Kickstarter?
Yeah. It's great.
Fall 2012, and then 2013 was pretty much all production. Started doing pre-production in December, and then January. From January to April, I shot like 40 interviews, close to 40 interviews, and then pretty much all last summer and fall and winter was putting this thing together. And it just, this is just coming together. I think the cut that you watched is the cut that I showed in LA. The final copies actually just got here last week, and they're ready to get shipped out. The official release date for this film is actually this coming weekend. I think Monday, technically. And so, anyways, it's all just coming together now, and I'm really excited.
So that means we can support you by buying the film soon.
Very, very soon. Talk to my web developer here. We're really crunching it to try to get the site up this weekend. And so, anyways, the website should be up and going by Saturday, and you'll be able to get the films there, and on Amazon.com as well.
Okay. Bluebeatsgreen.com.
Yeah, Blue.com is the website. The name of the film is Blue, if you're searching on Amazon. So.
Okay. Well, guys, how about some questions? Anybody have questions?
How difficult, Duncan Scott, I make documentaries also, and congratulations, you did a beautiful job. How difficult was access to, like Lord Monckton and some of the other people, high-profile people?
What was interesting was I found that most people were really happy to talk. Getting a hold of some of them was kind of hard. One connection kind of leads to the next. I got a hold of Cal Beisner, and he had another guy's contact info. in the case of Robert Zubrin, I actually was reading a bunch of his books, and I bought one. And at the front of it was funny. It just had an email address. It said Robert Zubrin. I forget his email, but so I just emailed it, and he replied right back. I said, "Hey, I want to talk to you about this." And he's like, "Sure." Monckton was a bit harder to get a hold of. I actually was corresponding. I never corresponded directly with him, but I went through his foundation, and then they put me in touch with another guy who kind of went back and forth as an in-between. And he was tough because the best time to interview him was not in Britain. I thought I was going to be going to Europe. And actually, he was doing a speaking tour in Australia. Well, you know, the hat he was wearing was given to him by a rancher in rural Australia. He was really proud of it because the rancher had given it to him as a thank you. He said, "Thank you, I appreciate you speaking the truth and getting out there. So here, have the hat." A lot of people have asked me, "Why is Monckton wearing this hat?" So,
that's great.
JD, do you have something in the background, like a TV going or something like that? I'm hearing some kind of talking or something. Is that us? Or?
Oh, it could be just feedback through the computer Skype system.
Oh, okay.
I could try popping.
So notice a definite, they're not pronounced, but a bit of a Christian lilt in there as well. Is that an intentional thing from your end, or what?
Oh, absolutely. You know, if it weren't for my faith in Christ and being a Christian, I wouldn't be doing any of this. That's the only reason that everything makes sense, and it's what glues everything together. I try to, it's like me, I really want to preach it from the pulpit, and I try to really pull back on it and try to let the arguments and the truth set everything up. But it's definitely a biblical worldview film. Now, it's not just for the Christian audience, I don't think, but I'm hoping it appeals to everybody. But that's my starting point. And I think I was reading an article, I forget what it was called, but there's a lot of scientists who think unless we get our biases put up front, that we can't really make any progress. Like there's no such thing as bias. Your starting points really determine your conclusions. If you go about your research or your project with the belief that nothing exploded and formed everything, your whole system of morality is going to be completely different than if you come to the topic with the preconceived ideas, your axioms, your starting points that, hey, God created the world. This is why we have morality. This is why it makes sense. So, anyways, I try to put a little bit of that up front and then tie it in smoothly at the end.
So,
yeah, I have really high hopes for this film. It was really good, and I love how you came up with blue versus green. I'm going to be using that term a lot. I'm a blogger as well, and so that's a really good idea. And I love all the hard science and the statistics and all that stuff. But the one thing that did concern me, I believe in God. I'm not dogmatically religious or anything like that. But the one thing that did make me fearful for the success of this movie was actually the Christian element. And the reason why is because a lot of people, before they watch a movie, they look online for reviews or things like that. And the people that donate to Sierra Club and the people that are, PBS watchers that are all into the environment and stuff like that, they tend to be very liberal. They tend to be left. And anything right-wing Christian labeled turns them off immediately before they can even hear the facts. You know what I mean? And so that's the thing that kind of scares me about that. And then also the thing in the end about United States or our system of government being based on the Bible. Well, I mean, the Roman Republic, they didn't need a Bible to get their republic started, and they didn't. And the Greek philosopher Solon, who talked about the Greeks needing a constitution because the democracies were so chaotic in that time. The Greeks didn't adopt that, but the Romans did, and that's how they became the most powerful civilization in the world. They didn't need a Bible.
Sure.
So people are going to come at you with that kind of a thing, and
right.
So that's the only thing that worries me, but not really a question. But
okay, well, yeah, I do appreciate those comments.
But it won't stop you.
But it's great. But the movie is fantastic. I mean, it's really cool.
Hey, thanks. What's the name of your blog? Curiously, I don't want to say.
It's called Indiecrat. So what I did was, I'm a libertarian, and John Stossel, who I watch a lot,
Sure.
He says he wanted a different name for libertarian. And so he didn't like the word libertarian because liberals already took liberal, you know what I mean? It's confusing. So he said, can anybody out there in my audience come up with a different name? So I thought of okay, what's the priority of libertarians? It's the individual. And then krat is Greek for to rule, like Democrat,
Right.
you know, kratias, power. So indie-krat is power ruled by the individual, or power to the individual, as opposed to democrat, demos meaning people, power to the people. So it's power to the individual, not power to the people.
Okay, cool. I'll definitely look it up.
Indie being I-N-D-I, krat.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you know, I watched the trailer and it had that I guess an extended interview with Lord Monckton about liberals having tied their wagon to global warming and how that's going to that you know when you know we discover as we are this winter that global warming and or the threats made by Al Gore are not coming true, that may sink their ship. Is that going to be in the final cut of the film, or is that an extra or something? Because I thought that was such a great. I mean, I guess it didn't really have as much to do with your film, but it was such a great piece of tape.
Yeah, some of that was a bonus clip that I posted online, and a portion of that was in the film. There's just so much content. I had my interview with Monckton was 2 hours long, and the whole thing was just great. I mean, the information was fantastic. Monckton is literally, I don't even know how to describe him. His brilliance is incredible. I mean, he's a mathematician. He knows all the stats. I mean, any fact or any story of the history of the whole global warming saga as it's unfolded over the last 10 years, he knows it inside and out. And it was funny, towards the end of the interview, he gave me this 10-minute long math section about how it would be cheaper to let global warming happen and adapt to it, and more effective and efficient. You know, just let it happen, even if the worst predictions from the IPCC are correct, and you know, just adapt to it as it happens, than to try to stop it now. And just the devastating effects that would have economically and on everybody else around the world, especially the world's poor, as my film argues. So, but there's so much content that I have that I'm hoping to get out there on the web and then on the DVD. The DVD does have a lot of bonus features on it.
Cool. And the DVD is coming out. I mean, when you say the release, is it going to be a VOD thing, or is it going to be? Are you actually selling the disc on Amazon?
I'm sorry. There's kind of the first part of that question is chopping out a bit.
You're saying that the release is happening later this month, but is that a VOD thing, or is that the disc itself with?
Well, it'd be basically just a soft release of the DVD. At this point, I don't have distribution locked or anything, so I have some leads from my LA showing, and I had a showing in San Diego a couple weeks ago. Just some distribution. Nothing's really official yet. So at this point, I'm still planning on marketing as much as I can independently, and hoping something opens up. So basically, all the release is kind of an arbitrary day where it's like, okay, the DVDs are going to be available online. You can buy them on Amazon. You can order them from my website. And I mean, I'm looking into VOD, video on demand options too, as we speak, really.
Did you, is this like the final edit? You're not going to make any more edits or adjustments or anything? Just because I noticed that there was some sound sync that was off a little bit, people talking later than the sound was coming in, and then in the part where you said, let's put the axe to that little monologue you did with put the axe to the green movement, the sound was really low there, so I was just wondering if you fixed those.
Yeah, I think that cut has been, if that's the cut that I think it is, if it was picked up at the LA showing, the latest cut is got some improvements, including the audio at the end is cranked up and the music is down a bit. So.
By the way, I'm a musician for a living. I make production music, and so if you can actually contact me through IndieKrat, and you can use any of my stuff royalty free of charge if you want, just as a way for me to donate to help you do whatever you want. So in case that's a production problem, you know, as far as like budget and you know.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
Sure.
Do you have a question?
Oh, I just was wondering if you're willing to share your email and stuff. I know some people who are in the industry who are also, you know, distributing independent movies, and maybe you guys talking together would be good.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, no, great. Definitely. I could give you my email now, or I could message it to Duncan or Michael. How do you guys want to do that?
I will will take it right now if you're
Okay.
willing.
Okay, so the best way to get me would be my broken, BROKEN, hints, HINTS, at gmail.com. It's my production company.
You said my broken hints or broken hints?
Broken, BROKE, broken, and then hints, HINTS.
Okay. At Gmail.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome.
So you had mentioned you interviewed 40 different people. So, I mean, all the people seem to really support, your film and your position well. Did you interview people that were just open, crazies that were global warming supporters and people that were very opposed?
I mean, I talked to a couple people off the street that were very much swallowed all the dogma. I reached out to the Nature Conservancy, and they didn't really want to talk. It's amazing how much red tape is in a lot of these organizations. And I reached out to some other individuals involved with the UN, Earth Charter initiatives, and other stuff, and they don't want to talk.
Yeah.
So it's hard. I'm sure I really could have found somebody that'd be willing to, and maybe I still will.
Well, I mean, I found for me years ago that one of the single events that kind of turned me to where I am now was the fact that Al Gore just refused to debate.
Yeah.
And I just was dumbfounded back then. I go, well, you're so sure of your position, but yet you won't support it in public. And I thought that was the burr in my saddle that really got me going. 15 years or more now.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. I think the American people are really starting to wake up on this issue, and at least the global warming issue. And, John Kerry was the other day from the Philippines when he's out there. He's like, if you don't believe in global warming, he called you a flat earther. He's like, global warming's it's more of a threat than, terrorism. It's more of a threat than anything else in the world right now. But yeah, him, Al Gore, even the president, they're just the audacity of them to keep pounding this message, despite the fact that it's not an overwhelming judgment of science. It's really unbelievable.
Yeah.
The times that we're living in, it just...
Amazing, yeah.
I heard George Will this last weekend on the news said that the debate, is over. He said there's one thing now that the debate is raging and they are losing.
That's right. I saw that too on Special Report. That was a great line.
The minute they say it's over,
Yeah.
they're losing.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Man. And that's what I said. That's what I said in my interview with Mark Baird. I'm like, man, this is crazy. He's like, no, it's an agenda.
Yeah. Definitely.
Did you see Frack Nation, Felon McAleer's movie?
I have seen parts of it. It's in my QE.
What's your next project?
Man, I've got so many films I want to make that I just want to bite my teeth into and try to conquer. But marketing this film is going to be the next big project. With an independent film and now looking at independent distribution because I don't have connections yet to a distributor. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I see myself marketing this film pretty much full-time for at least the next year. Beyond that, there's so many other films I want to make relating to constitutional issues, environmental issues, social issues, you name it. The one particular constitutional film that I think needs to be made is one on the 17th Amendment. Anybody familiar with that?
Yes.
Is that the Convention of States issue?
No, that's...
Right. It changed the way that our United States senators are appointed.
Oh, right.
It used to be where the state representatives would elect the senators for the state to represent the state in D.C., and now it's basically popular vote in the state. So we've really turned the republic into a mob rule democracy with that. It was crammed through the same year in 1913 that the income tax was rammed through, somewhat arguably illegally. And I think it's the most overlooked, one of the single most overlooked things that destroyed our republic. And I think the case can be made that states have not had a voice in D.C. since then.
Yeah.
It's really amazing how powerful senators are, how long their terms are, and then they spend all of their time with all of these special interest groups and everybody else, And instead of, whereas before, they were accountable to the state representatives. Our state representatives would say, hey, buddy, you're not doing what we elected you to do. You're out of there. But now, if I have a problem with, Baucus from Montana, or John Tester, some of the most liberal senators in the Senate, what I do, call him up and talk to one of his 27 interns.
Yeah.
He's not going to listen to me, but hey, he would listen to our representatives.
Yeah.
So that's a film I want to do, among many others.
Well, with all the locations you went to, I would like to put in a bid to be your cameraman for the next one. Because you go to some pretty great spots.
What did you shoot with?
I shot most of it on DSLR, HDSLR, Canon 5D. I was going to shoot some with a red, but that was going to be a little bit overkill, I think, for my budget. So, no, I'm really impressed with those cameras, and I had some great people working with me, mostly friends, sometimes family that would work for little or nothing.
Yeah. Did you go to film school, or you just wing it?
Hey, I just wung it, and that's the way most of my friends who are in the industry and doing really well did it too. I think with a lot of tech and with a lot of creative industries, you don't need to go to film school. Steven Spielberg, and I could name, or trying to think of the other ones, but there's 3 or 4 or 5 other really popular top Hollywood directors, and none of them went to film school. And so I all self-taught myself.
Wait, and you edit on Final Cut Pro, or?
I use Adobe Premiere Pro primarily.
Yeah, I have a question. The parts of the film that the interviews that you have done that you had to cut way down to fit in the film, are any of those going to be available, say, on YouTube or someplace like that?
Yes, yeah. I'm going to make a lot of those available on YouTube and over the next year, and a lot of them are on the DVD. I've got close to an hour of bonus videos from 4 or 5 people on the DVDs, and I'm going to keep putting stuff out on YouTube probably as well for promotion over the next year, and just to get the content out there. There's just so much that needs to be covered. Monckton talked just about everything under the sun as it relates to environmentalism, and Zubrin had so much other great stuff. Meisner, all these guys were just loaded with great information. Stephen Hayward was fantastic, and just so much of the stuff that they say, it's just like, man, you never hear that. The media never talks about it. Universities will never talk about it, and people need to hear it.
By the way, Frack Nation aired on Access TV, which is who's the guy who's he's the billionaire. Cuban, yeah, that's his. You might want to maybe do a deal with him or somebody like that to get it aired, major. Because the thing is like, okay, it's great for you to recoup the money on your DVD and all that stuff, but all the liberal people I want to watch this, and all the independent people that are on the fence, they're not going to pay for the DVD to watch it. They're going to watch it because I or somebody sent it to them, or they could just watch it on YouTube and they could really get the full content. So at some point, I mean, do you plan on making it just available for everybody to watch it? All like the vast majority of people out there that won't pay for it, that will just watch it because they can, because they don't, they just don't.
Right. Right. No, I anticipate getting it out there. One thing that I would like to do that I'm probably going to start promoting soon would be a free online showing for the weekend or the week of Earth Day coming up here at the end of April, and so we'll see. Maybe I can get some traction with that, and then down the road, I could see, putting more sections up on YouTube, maybe eventually the whole film. But for now, probably at least the next year, I really got to get this film out there.
Right.
I got to get the DVD out there.
The Great Global Warming Swindle, which is another really great movie with Lord Monckton in it and all that stuff. That's now, you can watch that, the whole full thing on YouTube.
With the wealth of material you had, did you consider doing a longer version, or obviously that's more editing time and more expense, but did you consider doing an hour-and-a-half version?
I thought about it, and the hour-long version is kind of odd. It's not feature length and it's not short enough to be TV, but I thought it was the appropriate length for the message, And it's like the fewer the words you can say and get your point across, the better. I could have dragged out for another half an hour, but I felt like it wasn't as punchy. It didn't pack as much of a bite. But yeah, definitely something that I was wrestling with, because so much of it just cut. You got to narrow it down. You got to find your core message, and then how efficiently can you say that? So 60 minutes ended up being what this film was.
Well, you did a great job with it.
I think it cuts a nice balance to the hour version between keeping your supporters engaged as well as keeping the non-supporters engaged and not, kind of boring them with interviews or anything. You jump at a very nice pace where your audience stays tuned in, regardless of, I think, what side they'd be on. I think you'd actually have both sides engaged. So I'm definitely a major supporter of the hour format. It was good. Really
good.
You might get Hannity on Fox to do a whole hour on it.
Oh,
Yeah.
He's done that before for other documentaries, where he just does a whole hour.
Huh, interesting. Now, that's the thing, is like, it's mostly just me, myself, and I on this project. I've got some help with some family and extended family and friends, pretty much. But I'm doing all that I can to try to find connections, to help me get it into the right hands. One of my friends but he's got a good friend who works for Glenn Beck. And so, yesterday I sent him a DVD so he could give his friend the DVD so he could give it to somebody really close to Glenn Beck who could get it to Glenn Beck.
That's the way to do it.
By the way, I just saw Glenn Beck complaining about how he's got these people that live in New York, and he keeps telling them, listen, why don't you leave your office in New York and come here? I have this gigantic movie studio that you can make all the movies you want to your heart's content. Maybe if you hooked up with him, you could have access to, his equipment, his personnel, his staff, Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting.
He would love that constitutional issue that you want to talk about.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I think Glenn is a great fit.
Yeah.
I have a question about, you mentioned the corruption in the government and these other organizations. So I'm interested in getting more information on that and giving talks to people about it.
Sure. Yeah, especially a lot of the stuff that I dug up with that, at least on the federal level, was through my wolf introduction, my film on the wolves. It's called Crying Wolf. You can get that on Amazon too. Crying Wolf, exposing the wolf reintroduction to Yellowstone National Park. With this project, there wasn't as much fraud necessarily that I found in the government or environmental groups, but just their standard procedure is pretty crazy. Like, think about the Nature Conservancy, for instance, the largest landholders of anybody in the world. I forget how many millions or billions of acres they have, but one of their biggest acquisitions, and I think it was 2012, late 2012, was this like 500 million acre piece of land in Montana. Now, it was formerly owned and operated by a logging company that couldn't log there anymore, basically because the laws in Montana prevent that from happening economically. And so they sold it to the Nature Conservancy, but here's the thing that you don't hear, was that the Nature Conservancy was given like over half the money. I forget the numbers now, but it's like half or more of the money. It was like hundreds of millions of dollars from the government in the form of this new grant that just came out. And then they got this other big chunk of the money from another grant, and then they partner with the government for this. So basically, the taxpayers bought it for the Nature Conservancy, and then to my understanding, they sold it, I think, at least half of it back to the government again, because the government wanted it as like state or federal land. And so they bought it with taxpayer money, and then they sold it with. So the taxpayers end up buying land twice.
Wow. Crazy. Nothing surprises us anymore.
But why do you need corruption when you can do it legally?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then all these other groups, that's how they run. They're you look at their budgets. I interviewed one lady, some of you might have heard of. Her name was Karen Bud Fallon. She's an attorney out of Cheyenne, Wyoming. And she's dug up a lot of numbers and some fraud and corruption as well on a lot of these big groups. I mean, they have so much money, millions, tens of millions that are given to them with grants, donations, foundations, and then all they do is find stuff like field mice and sage grouse and gray wolves to sue about, and fight about and campaign about, and so that was really eye-opening. And then a lot of these groups, like the Center for Biological Diversity, which are huge, and World Wildlife Fund, they're now coming out basically openly saying, look, we got to get rid of the people. The world's overpopulated, and that's on their agenda. And Center for Biological Diversity is one of the biggest groups out there, and it was actually started by the head of Patagonia and REI, I think. Side note.
Well, we all appreciate you giving us a preview of your film and having a chance to talk to you very much, Jeff. Thank you very much. We wish you a lot of success with the release of the film. And please keep us posted and let us know if there's anything we can do.
Definitely. Thanks for showing up to your tea party, and spread the word. Tell your friends.
All righty.
All right. Thanks very much.
Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Okay, you got it.